Hi, I'm Jenny Thompson, Executive Director here at Dixon's, and today I am at the wonderful Dixon City Academy in Bradford. This episode of our series on our latest thinking, the Trust Trifecta, focuses on the third track of our big trifecta, Proceed. Proceed is focused on organisational agility. For us, this is the difference between having the idea of the journey and making it, there and back, alive. From the first two tracks in our big trifecta, we've already ensured we have the right team with clarity of communication and organisational health. We've already ensured we have the right environment in our intentional organisational design to make the best decisions and bring about desirable, planned change. Now here, in our third track, we move into precision, the navigation and retracing and rerouting and fine-tuning of live decisions taken on the rock face during the ascent. Having great thinking, having great documentation, can be really fulfilling for leaders. Spreadsheets, Gantt charts, and ever more sophisticated planning tools can become the work itself and often feel really comforting. To offer a simplification of Baudrillard's thinking, to create a map as perfectly detailed as the world, you would have to do so on a piece of paper that would ultimately cover the world. How many of us have files and folders, both digital and dusty, that could afford us so many circumnavigations? And yet, have we ever stopped to assess the efficacy of our planning? Being even-handed in the consideration, time, and deep thought given to the intellectually satisfying theory and the make-it-real implementation is critical. At Dixon's, we do not overvalue the theorists, and we do not undervalue our make-it-realers. It would be, perhaps, a valid challenge that by expecting leaders to be real about whatever could risk them looking at ambitious theory and seeing it as unrealistic. But we have found the opposite. Tight, deep consideration of planning and the development of critical expertise in implementation has allowed us to turn exactly the theories so often scoffed at as unrealistic into consistently successful, game-changing practice. We can make the complex simple. We can say it simply because we have thought deeply. Having a vision, a desirable outcome, an artifact, is not the same as having the ability to implement it. These skills are discrete. Let me illustrate this for a moment. Bridget Riley was an avant-garde op artist, a totally radical female in an all-male space. Over years, she learnt the discipline of how to make what she painted look exactly as she intended. For Bridget Riley, the skill was in the implementation, the doing of the thing. For so many disciplined years, Riley studied Seurat. Through Seurat, she learnt how to successfully paint. Then, when she had something to say, she knew she had a secure process with which to articulate herself. Her painting is so far removed from his work, it doesn't look like his work. She studied him not in order to paint like Seurat, but in order to learn how to express anything with coherence. And such is our view of implementation. The Dixon's process of implementation is not about becoming Dixon's. It is about the discipline of successfully turning an idea into artifact. Great decision makers are those who, no matter how far into planning or implementation they have travelled, are always willing to turn back if it becomes apparent that doing so is the right thing right now. They are the mountaineers who see the snowstorm coming and can gauge that continuing the ascent is a risk not worth taking. They are the mountaineers who ultimately will reach the summit and will get their whole team up safely too. Thinking needs to be explored fully so that it can be documented simply. For successful implementation, the ratio of time spent needs to be weighted tenfold to planning and away from doing. Leaders often pride ourselves in how few changes to a plan were required. It's our experience that this is a false measure. It often shows a lack of understanding and may indicate that over time the implementation will flounder. And importantly, once any plan is live, that can never become the excuse to resist self-evidently necessary change. However, we have also found that the implementation process, regardless of the artifact, is highly replicable. Once secure, your teams can simply nudge it to fit the scale or scope of change. Be willing to spend time thinking deeply in order to communicate simply. Be relentlessly welcoming of challenge. Ultimately, we could add a little to Drucker's famous misquote: "Culture eats strategy for breakfast, but you'll go hungry without implementation." Now, leverage. At Dixon's, we are increasingly careful to avoid initiative overload. We believe in keeping things as simple as possible. There are lots of good things we could do that we don't do in order to focus on making a few really impactful big moves with rigor. At Dixon's, we always try to keep getting better every day. Continuous improvement is really important to us. However, we also know that incrementalism and being tentative can limit our growth. Therefore, we must back our bold aspirations with equally bold actions. Often in education, path-finding ideas get whittled down. The idea feels too risky, too different from what others are doing. Making big moves does not need to come at the expense of increased risk. In fact, the biggest risks might lie in not moving at all. You can shift the odds by capitalizing on your endowment, riding the right trends, and most importantly, making a few big moves. You can't change your endowment, but you can understand it. Trends and moves you can influence. You can act on trends. Here, what matters is getting tailwinds instead of headwinds. Success in riding trends means accurately understanding shifts in the sector, channeling resources towards opportunities, and doing it fast. For example, in the past, our students have benefited from the fact our schools have responded quickly to national curriculum changes. Our ability to move quickly is rooted in our commitment to agility. Finally, big moves are breakout opportunities that are hard to reverse. Think of them as the things the next management team will have to take as givens. Truly exploiting leverage is not about developing certainty, but boosting your odds. Remember, bold moves are often less risky than a timid strategy. Dare to get to the summit. And now talent. At Dixon's, aligned autonomy is the foundation of our success so far. We are aligned on our mission and values. These are our non-negotiables. If we are determined to create a healthy organisation, the people who work for us must also have agency and self-determination. Traditional performance management strongly contradicts our agile approach. It's too ritualistic and too infrequent. Therefore, we have jettisoned appraisal at Dixon's. Instead, we want our associate staff, teachers, and leaders to have conversations about performance as an organic part of their work, focusing on fueling performance in the future rather than evaluating the past. It's fairly obvious how well people are doing. If you talk simply and honestly about performance on a regular basis, we believe you can get great results. Over time, every employee learns to give as well as receive feedback. Our staff are supported to keep getting better through a continuous cycle of positive interactions. These interactions are based on caring personally, interacting with humility and respect, but not avoiding challenge. And this really requires trusted two-way human connections. Pretty much the opposite of the old command and control idea, in which a manager writes a yearly, backward-looking assessment of how the employee is doing. By being candid with our team and centred on trust, we will not only get to the summit together, but we will get home safely. We hope you find our thinking on the Trust Trifecta useful. The Trust Trifecta offers a methodology to facilitate every trust to be effective in your own shape and on your own journey. Thank you for watching. Please remember, it is not the intention of the Trust Trifecta to provide a route map to a single summit. This is a codification of how to be successful no matter where your individual journey is heading. If you haven't already done so, remember to sign up to our OS platform.